Welcome to the Lowdown Mortgage Podcast, the show where we dive deep into the topics that directly impact the evolving originator. I'm your host, Connor Bartley. Bam! And joining me today is someone who built his entire mortgage career the old-fashioned way by becoming the person his partners actually trust to call when things get complicated. He's a Charleston, South Carolina-based loan officer who spent years quietly solving problems behind the scenes that most people never even knew existed. Landon Kail, welcome to the Lowdown.
Thank you, Connor. Appreciate you having me, brother.
Absolutely, man. It's been great getting to know you. You know, we're on the same team over here at Lower, and this being kind of Lower week on the Lowdown, it's been really cool just talking to the loan officers who have joined us recently and getting their stories out there. And you're someone who has been a big help to us on the recruiting side too, and just sort of having conversations with people to let them know what it's like here. So I'm really grateful to you for that. I want to get your story out there, man, and let people get to know you. If we back things up, you said that if you had been a loan officer in the 80s, you would have just totally dominated, right? Because you've been called out of the phone book. You would just like strip away all the flashy, shiny objects and the social media stuff and just get down to basics. And that's what you're all about. Like, what is it about the way you work that feels more at home in that era than maybe the one that we're in now?
Yeah, no, I actually said that exact same thing at a Carolina's mortgage banker convention that they had in Charleston a couple of years ago. And I think that possibly rubbed a few people the wrong way when I said that. Because I was asked to like speak on some young panel or whatever. So I've kind of said the same thing for years. But yeah, I'm not the best with social media. I'm not the best with kind of putting myself out there. I'm a little bit more reserved in my professional life, and definitely my personal life. I very rarely use Facebook. Like if you get on my Facebook account, you'll see updates, but it's updates that people put on there on my timeline or tag me. So I very rarely do so. I think my Facebook profile picture is 8 years old now or 7 years old. So, I mean, it's pretty old. So I'm just a pretty reserved person, but I kind of like the old school approach to this business in some aspects, but I kind of like the new approach. One, we don't have to wait 3 days for credit reports to be faxed to the office and go have people come to the office, sit down and do the old school pen and paper application. Like I've heard all the stories about, which I was not in the business back then. But yeah, if it was just the lead generation piece of the 80s or the 70s, I would probably crush it at that point because you had to know what you were doing on the phone. You had to be able to build those relationships, take care of people. I feel like now with social media, which can be great, there's nothing wrong with social media or anything, but I just think there's so much fluff out there. There's a lot of half truths that get shot out. People just do the shotgun approach so much and see what sticks. And I don't know, maybe I'll dive into that a little bit. I'll put myself out there a little bit more, but it's just something that I just really have yet to go down the path of. But the phone calls, texts, emails, that's kind of the name of the game. That's that one-on-one personal relationship that's really served me well, basically.
Yeah. Well, and, kind of to expand on a little bit of what you're saying there, like, social media for some can really turn into a crutch. It
Yeah.
can be, an excuse to not get on the phones and, dive into those relationships. I personally see an evolution of, everything has like these trends, they swing back and forth. You get bell bottom pants that come back every once in a while, right? And
Yeah.
different things like that. And I can clearly see just with how strong we're leaning into social media and AI and automation, how people will really start to value one-to-one contact that's personal and over the phone, in person, just sort of, I don't know, tactics, right?
Mhm.
And just get back to the
Yeah.
basics. And those things work because people value human connection. So I'm excited for those days because I think we need more of that in this world. But anyway, moving on, like just learning a little bit about your market in Charleston. It sounds like a pretty unique place. You got military, retirees relocating from the Northeast, sort of everything in between. How does that variety sort of shape your day to day and how you approach each file?
Yeah, so I'm not originally from Charleston. So I moved to Charleston almost 20 years ago to go to college. Once I graduated, I just kind of stuck around town and started working professionally. So I'm one of those people. But where I'm from in West Tennessee, you don't really see condos. You very rarely see townhomes. There is no real waterfront or oceanfront properties or anything like that. It's pretty much your cookie cutter single family stuff. So if I was a loan officer in West Tennessee or somewhere that's a landlocked state, I probably wouldn't see as much of the breadth that we see here in Charleston that a lot of loan officers see. So from just a type of property perspective, dealing with warrantable and non-warrantable condos, having to deal with HOAs and property managers on all the docks and reserves, dealing with master homeowners condo policies, learning about co-insurance, which is a big thing on the commercial insurance for these condos. I would have never have known any about that working in a landlocked place that was mostly single family homes, especially where I'm from. So just having that breadth of primary residences, people buying second homes, people buying investment properties, and all the different types of duplexes and triplexes. I don't know if you spend any time in Charleston, but one thing that's pretty common in Charleston, at least, is downtown, these old school 19th century Charleston single family homes that are being converted into duplexes, triplexes, or quadplexes, and then rented out to college students, for example. So there's just so many unique things with Charleston that you don't necessarily see elsewhere. I mean, even down in Florida, where I do some loans, you just don't see as much of a breadth of kind of the uniqueness of some of the properties. But it served me well because it's made me learn more about kind of the finite details of the guidelines with certain things and really follow along. So from that aspect, I feel like it's made me not an expert in everything, because I don't think anybody's going to be an expert in everything, but it's given me a really good breadth of knowledge and a base layer of knowledge to really be able to have a good conversation with somebody, see a problem, maybe figure out who to go to or what to look up to fix that problem. And just been very blessed to have that opportunity to work in this area with those opportunities.
Yeah, man, that's great. Like, I just feel the more variety you can see, the more touches you can get on files that are unique, the more valuable you become as a loan officer because you can solve different problems. You've had exposure to just different challenges and different income and different property types and
Mhm.
all these different things in between that really make you valuable to the referral partner who may not know anything about those types of things and need somebody who can step in and fill in the
Yeah.
gaps of what needs to happen to make this, move smoothly. Now this isn't a hot debate in mortgage, but it comes up from time to time, and you're on the side of the fence of like you want to collect all the documents up front first before the contract's written. And I
Yeah.
love that because I've talked to a lot of people, and the argument for is you're going to save yourself some time down the road by avoiding a potential issue and nipping it in the bud early. Like, where did that habit come from, and what are some of the problems that it's saved you from?
Yeah. So I'm a little unique in this business because I was actually a real estate agent before I was a loan officer. So I actually started out as a general brokerage real estate agent, did that for a number of years. And it was my old preferred lender that I worked with in real estate that actually got me into lending. And my mentor, she's no longer in business, she's since retired, but she was super old school. She'd been in the business a long time. So when I actually first got into business, she actually made me put a paper file together in the envelope with a correct stacking order, put it in the file cabinet. And she was like, yeah, that's great. Like, do electronic stuff, do PDF stuff, but you need to also have a paper copy. I have since moved far away from that. I haven't done that in many, many years. But I think that kind of aspect of thinking about the business where, yeah, you can have your digital copy, but get a paper copy of everything so you can pull it and review it. Kind of that old school approach kind of made me realize, like, hey, it's good to get these documents up front, especially on self employed. I mean, don't ever give a pre approval on somebody that's self employed without seeing their taxes. But there's so many reasons why you want to get those documents up to date. Like, for example, like let's just say hypothetically somebody says, yeah, I've got 30 grand in the bank, but they don't tell you that's a custodian account for their child. Well, guess what? If that money is in a custodian account, that's going to change stuff. Or maybe somebody on the online application put they don't pay child support, but once you get the pay stubs, you see there's a deduction for garnishment because they're paying through the courts because they haven't been paying. So the courts are pulling it from their pay stubs. So there's just so many small little details, or maybe even driver's license, they're expired, and giving somebody the time to go get that update to their driver's license instead of waiting till they're under contract. Then you get those docs. Maybe they're not currently around their own state's DMV to get that updated driver's license, or maybe it's going to take too long to come in. I mean, there's just so many aspects. I mean, one of the things that I've kind of learned over the years is with military, I mean, always ask, hey, are you going to be here physically present for closing? Because in the state of South Carolina, we do not allow for remote notaries or remote online notaries with everything signed electronically. There's certain documents that have to be physically signed. So just asking them straight up, hey, are you going to be here physically for closing? And if they're not, depending on where they're currently stationed or where they're currently located, that gives us enough time to get that POA sent out, because we got to have that physical receipt of that POA specific to the deal unless they have a general POA already set up. So there's just so many reasons to get those documents early. Sometimes I don't do it. Like there's some files, I always like to say this is going to sound terrible, but there's some files I just say, hey, Wells Fargo couldn't mess this one up, so this is a good deal. It's good to go. It's going to close. Wells Fargo can't even make or mess it up. Those are the deals I probably don't nitpick so much. I'm just like, yep, you got this, move forward, we're good. But most of the time, I'm going to get all the documents just to make sure I'm going to walk into a good file, be able to fix any problems behind the scenes before it does come up. But it also lets us have a really good file before we ever even submit to underwriting, because there's so many times like people that submit a partial file, yeah, you get that conditional approval, but one of the conditions, that document that's needed by the underwriter isn't available. Maybe that document isn't correct, and now you just took a conditional approval. Everybody's gotten the email, it's been conditionally approved, but guess what? It fell out because that one document, due to that partial file, was the big problem all along, that you would have figured that out early or been able to maybe switch products early enough in the deal before you've ordered that appraisal. So there's a few reasons to do it. Yes, it takes more time, but thankfully, my production partner, she's been with me for almost 7 years. We've got a pretty good, efficient system where I set the file up, send it to her. She goes through everything, sends me a list, so I double check the list. And then she reaches out and docs the whole file out, LOXs, the whole 9 yards before we even send out that pre-approval, so that when we do get that contract in, I mean, conditions are minimal and it's just insurance and appraisal and title at that point.
Yeah.
And speed of closing. I mean, speed of closing, that helps out with speed of closing, because if you do everything and then you get an appraisal waiver on a conventional file, I mean, you could submit to underwriting, get a conditional, turn it around in 48 hours, and boom, you're good, waiting on title to come in. So, I mean, there's a lot of reasons for it.
Yeah. Is there a downside to operating that way, in that, like, you're a duck out there, right? You're cool on top, but your feet are underwater, just, kicking like crazy. And it feels like every deal probably, I mean, the perception might be that every deal just goes really smooth. Like, do you get any feedback of just like, are you actually working, Landon? Or
Yeah.
what's that been like?
Yeah. I mean, there's certain deals where I always like to say, the old adage, 20% of the people do 80% of the production, that old adage in the mortgage world. It's usually in my timeline of files, or how much time I have to spend on a file after that fact, it's like 5% of the files suck up 95% of my time, because you can do as much legwork up front to fix problems, get everything smooth, but maybe something goes sideways, appraisal goes sideways, insurance came in too high, now we have a DTI problem, or there's certain things that you just can never control on a deal. This past fall, for example, I had somebody moving here, had an offer letter in hand, and then I don't know, it was right after the first of the year, they called me up and said, oh, by the way, that offer letter, yeah, we didn't start that job, we're going somewhere else. And I was like, really? Because we've used that offer letter for this whole thing. So we had to make a lot of adjustments and moves and changes behind the scenes. But it's kind of turned into a funny situation. I've had a couple agents that I work with, or referral partners I've worked with over the years, one of which said this about a year and a half ago, and now they've turned into a really close friend of mine. But they asked me, they were like, what do you do every day? And at first I was kind of taken aback by it, because I'm like, well, every time you call me, I'm in front of my computer, so clearly I'm at my desk. And they were like, well, we get all these emails with all these other deals about this, and we need this, and you just kind of send us, hey, it's been underwritten, that, hey, the appraisal came in, and then it's clear to close. Like, what do you just pass everything off, or like, what's going on? And I just don't think they realize, like, hey, I'm still spending the same amount of time on a file. I just do it up front prior to that contract to mitigate any issues or smooth that whole process down. So it's a really finite step system, 1 through 5, and we're set to close. But it has turned into a funny one where a few people have kind of looked at me and just said, "Do you just go play golf every day?" I'm like, "No, actually, I haven't played golf in the middle of the week in almost a year, but I would love to. That'd be fantastic."
Yeah, well, and you've even mentioned to me that like you get calls on other deals that aren't even yours, right? Like so you've developed enough trust, I think, where and value in the way you operate where people are still coming to you to ask questions about deals you're not involved in. How does that something like that happen and what does that tell you about the value of becoming the go-to resource in your market?
Yeah, it just kind of happened organically. It's not like something I advertised, like, "Hey, everybody, call me on all the problems that you have," or anything like that. It's just kind of happened organically because the one thing that I'm very proud of in my business is I've been able to kind of work with people that have become my friends. And a lot of these relationships have lasted years and years and years. And because of that, not only do we talk about business, but we also talk about personal stuff and family and vacations and things like that. And so this mostly happens when a really close friend of mine that's also a referral partner has a listing, and that listing is not all cash. They're getting a loan and something's going on, or hey, they just want to bounce an idea off of me and just see, like, hey, does this make sense? Like the lender's saying this. What do you think about this? And so I just kind of go through my normal spiel of, all right, what kind of loan is it? Yeah, got this, got this. And I just kind of give them some feedback. There's been a few instances where that's turned into, hey, the lender said that won't work because they can't do that, but they're saying you can't do it either. And then come to find out it's because some lender has some crazy overlay that we don't have. And so it's kind of turned into a deal or a situation where, hey, this is now a reject or a turn down somewhere else. Hey, can you get this done? And how fast can you get it done? So it's kind of benefited me a little bit over the years as well. So it's not all like me working for free, but I don't mind helping the people out that are not only my friends, but those that I know respect me and my time and my business. And we just have a really good working relationship that way. So I'm not going to advertise it. I'm not going to say, hey, just call me with all your problems and I'll fix them for free, because then I wouldn't be able to do my normal job. But it's just something that I'm never going to turn a good friend away. I'm going to help them out and figure out how can we fix this and move forward. And sometimes I provide that guidance. Or I've had a couple times where I've actually known the other loan officer and called him up and said, hey, listen, I'm not trying to get in the middle of your stuff. I'm not going to take this deal. Like, hey, do this. This is what I personally would do. And it worked out. And so it doesn't happen that way all the time. But if I know the loan officer and we're good and we're friends, I'll call him up and help him out too. But that's very rare though.
I love that, man. And I know, you talked about some of your referral relationships kind of being more friendships, right? It's half business, half life. And, you've built that relationship up over time. Like, how do you know when you've sort of gotten to that level with somebody? And does it make you a better partner with that person? Or does it sometimes that get in the way?
Yeah, I mean, it just happens over time and naturally. You can kind of see like some relationships, it's all business and we're talking on the phone or texting, it's mostly business. But then other times, I found myself sitting on the phone for 45 minutes with a referral partner that's also turned into a friend. And the first 10 or 15 minutes were business, and the rest were just shooting the stuff about everything in and under the sun. Before I got married, there was one agent that, and this is before they got married as well, we would actually play Call of Duty at night. So he would text me and be like, hey, what are you doing? Oh, I just got off the computer.
I'm dropping in.
All right, well, I'm getting on Call of Duty. You want to play? And so we play Call of Duty together. So I mean, it just happens naturally like that. We don't do that anymore. We're both married, so we can't get away with that anymore. But I've been very blessed to be able to work with other people that are like me and think about things the same way I do, from just life and time. And while this business can be extremely stressful at times, I mean, I don't care what company you work for. A deal is a deal. There's a problem. There's a problem. You got to fix it. There is stress. So that no company's going to reduce all stress. But I've been very blessed to at least reduce the stress of dealing with people, because most of the time it's somebody I'm working with that like I can have that open, honest conversation of like, hey, this is a problem. Here's what I'm doing to fix it. But I just don't want you to have an oh shoot moment 24 hours before closing. So I'm just bringing this to your attention, not saying we are not doing it. I just want to provide you this guidance and heads up so it's not a surprise. Or if you get a phone call from the client on why I'm needing to do this, or Landon's being mean to me, you now know why I'm doing what I'm doing. So that's just trust as well, because there's a lot of loan officers out there I've kind of learned over the years that they do one deal a year with 100 different agents, and maybe the next year they only do one deal a year or another deal with 50% of those agents because they ruined a lot of relationships, they burned a lot of bridges, and it's just a constant churning. And I've been very fortunate to be able to work with a lot of the same agents time and time again for many, many years. And it's just that trust factor that you build with somebody that you just don't get with just a one or two deal over a 6 or 12 month period. That takes years to get to.
Yeah. So I'm going to switch gears for a second here and just talk about like the impact of platform, because we talked about this the other day. And here at Lower, we're very flat organization. There's not a lot of layers of management or,
Yeah.
different hands in the pot, different people that you need to get answers from, things like that. And speed matters in this business. So I was just curious, like, what has this environment been like for you in terms of just the ability to get quick decisions made, and how has that made an impact on things for you?
Yeah. So I've been in the business for this is my 10th year. So I've been in lending for 10 years. Prior to that, I did some real estate sales. And I feel like the company you work for is definitely important. But at the end of the day, a conventional loan is a conventional loan, and FHA loan is an FHA loan. You still will have a lot of the same tasks associated with it. But one of the interesting things with Lower that's very unique is they really empower the local loan officer and the local branch manager here to be able to make a boots on the ground decision and move forward. So we don't really have a lot of middle management to go through to get approvals for this or that or whatever. If you feel like you can get it done, you can make that local decision, get it done. Sometimes, like, hey, one of the underwriting managers will call you up and say, like, hey, I don't know if we can do this, but let me look into it. But that's very rare. But the one cool thing about this company that I've learned is management is super accessible. I don't know if you want me to say this on the open air, but I mean, I have cell phone numbers for pretty much everybody in the company that you need to know. And while I don't abuse that, I do know that if there is an absolute need, I can just send a quick text. And I mean, prime example, this past week, there was a lot of HOA documents that had to come in on a file for whatever reason. And we were set to close the next morning at 9:30, and this is like 5:30, 6 o'clock Eastern. And we finally got all the HOA documents in. We finally got everything to be able to balance. And so I reached out to the closing department manager and said, hey, I know this is kind of last minute, but we finally got all the HOA docs in from the closing attorney. They were delayed on getting them. Is there a way to get this package out? Because the closer's already gone. And so they asked me who it was, and she was like, hey, give me 5 minutes. She texted me back 5 minutes later and was like, hey, they went to go run a quick errand. They'll be on the computer in 30 minutes. About an hour later, the package was out. We kept the 9:30 time. So just being able to have that access is like super, super cool. But not having to go through a regional manager or district manager to then go all the way up and go through that weird chain, just being able to go to directly to the source to get stuff done, it really does provide a lot of efficiency. And I know this has kind of turned into a pretty common industry standard, but being able to get upfront answers on stuff, upfront underwriting, upfront income review, it really does allow you to get a file start to finish extremely fast. Doing that, grabbing all the documents, all the LOXs, everything we need, plus submitting for income review, allowed me this current year to win a what was it, a 1.7 purchase, 1.3 loan, and we were one of 6 or 7 offers. But because we were able to get this jumbo loan closed in 2 weeks, we won. So that was an application to clear to close in 8 days or 7 days. So we were clear to close early before that. So I mean, just being able to move super fast allows you to really be able to do some really cool stuff, build really good rapport with referral partners, make them look good with their clients. Like I just had a client yesterday, or not a client, but an agent say, hey, what do you think about this for this person? And I was like, yeah, it's a great idea. I've already gone over that with them. They really like this option. They were like, oh my God, thank you so much for doing that, because yeah, I told them you were like the guy to go to for that. So that's making me look really good. I mean, I got that text message and obviously liked that and said, oh, that's awesome. I'm glad to do that for you. So that's helping them out, potentially get another referral. So while no company is perfect, I do feel like a company that fixes problems extremely fast, just because there is a lot less middle management to go through. Also, if there's a problem, there's a problem, but how fast can we fix it? And we've been able to do that if there has been a problem to arise. And that's been really, really cool.
Awesome, man. Well, I'm hopeful that we can
That was
get
a
you on the
very
golf
long winded
course.
answer.
Yeah, well,
Say
it's all
what?
good. I'm hopeful we can get you on the golf course in the middle of the week because you feel like everything's taken care of. So that's new goals. But Landon,
Exactly, exactly.
I want to give you an opportunity now to just sort of speak your mind. We've talked about a lot. I've asked a lot of questions, and I just didn't know if there was something that maybe you were hoping to share before we wrap up that we haven't had a chance to talk about. So I want to give you the floor, and if there's anything on your mind, feel free to speak freely.
Yeah, the one thing I've always kind of thought about this business, like for example, some agents are like, "Hey, do you do credit repair and stuff like that?" I'm like, "Well, there really is no real such thing as credit repair. There's guidance and saying, hey, do this or do this or do this, but there's really no magic pill." Like, I think that's one of the misconstrued details of this business where people think, "Oh, they're in credit repair, their credit's going to be fixed in 30 days or less." Well, it's not really the case. There is no magic pill in any situation, and the reason why I want to say that is there's really no magic pill in this business. And while I'm not the biggest producer by any stretch of the imagination, I've also been around a little longer where I'm not brand new anyway. And the one thing I would really kind of have people think about or question is removing all the noise, because kind of that 1980s, 1970s mindset of relationships, phone calls, that kind of reduces and removes a lot of the noise that you see online where it's like, hey, there's this new sales coach out there and learn the tips and tricks of doing this. And there's really nothing new. It's just a rebrand and a rewording of something that's already been taught for 50 years. And sometimes I kind of feel like all these extra tools and these shiny objects, people think there's a magic pill, but there really isn't. And sometimes those shiny objects would be like a certain piece of software or AI or whatever. Yeah, it's cool. Like, that's awesome if it wants to supplement some aspect of your business. But at the end of the day, this is a relationship business, and phone calls, text messages, seeing people in person is always going to rule. I think, funny enough, I've seen kind of that revolving door of a business cycle now, to where a lot of these coaches or things I've seen online are going back to kind of teaching people how to get back on the phone, because so many people have relied on Instagram DMs and text messages and things like that. And sometimes that shiny object, while it could be cool, is just going to provide more noise and issues. And just going back to the basics, there is no secret sauce to this job. It's, if you're going to be a loan officer and you're going to do it well, you better know your guidelines and you better be able to know how to talk on the phone. Or if you can't, you need to have some really good support staff to be able to do that for you. Because unfortunately, I've seen a lot of times where loan officers talk to a person one time, they then pass that person off to their assistant or whatever, let the assistant and all their ops staff handle everything. Problems arise. Then they get mad phone calls from clients or referral partners. And then they're wondering, well, why is this happening? Well, it's one, your people weren't trained, or two, you just didn't go to the basics. You're trying to do these crazy sales pipelines of get more time back and you're going to be able to triple your production. Well, if you burn every bridge and relationship under the table because you just didn't handle the basics of the business, you're not going to get any further. So the one thing I would always just tell people is there is no secret sauce. It's sometimes the simplest answer or the simplest way of generating business is going to be the best. And it's also the most profitable, because you're not spending tens of thousands of dollars in lead shares or other things that never really turn out to be profitable either if you go down that path.
All great points, man. Keep it simple.
That's a really long-winded answer.
All great points, though. I mean, just keep it simple and stick to the basics. And I mean, the tried and true things worked way back when. They still work today. That's why they're the tried and true things. And you do need to be discerning about what's being, sold to you at the end of the day. I mean, someone is trying to make a buck, and it could be a great solution for what you have a problem. It could be an unnecessary solution. And but find what works for you and stick with it. And I think consistency really is the model, regardless of what it is you do. So, I appreciate that advice, and Landon, I just appreciate you being on the lowdown and joining this show and being a part of this community and kind of sharing your wisdom and perspectives with the audience. I'll definitely keep an eye on you for the future and wish you nothing but success.
Thank you, Connor. Appreciate your time. Thanks for having me, buddy.